Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And you have myself, Stephen George. Very good evening.
Good evening. We're going to be going straight into the interview rather than talk about a few bits and pieces during the week. We're going to leave that till the end of the actual show because our guest, Ralph Ring, is actually over in the States at the moment and he's in front of an audience as well. So, good evening, audience. We'll be talking to Ralph just in a few minutes, but we'll find out what the communication channels are first.
Yes, okay, Mary, communication channels, please.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 937 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Thank you, Mary. 046 927 1212 is the magic number for the studio this evening. You can also communicate with us on the website. Just go to oymradio.com and click on the live chat button, and you can put questions in there for our guest, our special guest, Ralph Ring, this evening. And there's loads of people logged into the chat room already, so I'll say a big hi to all of you. Alan.
Cheers, Steve. Okay, now we have a few things that, a lot of things actually going on during the week, which we're going to touch base on after we finish the interview with Ralph. We don't want to take up Ralph's time because I'm sure he's a very busy man. So we're going to bring Ralph in and we're going to have a chat with him all about his background and experiences, and I believe Ralph is there with Marsha, his wife, as well. So good evening, Ralph. How are you?
Good evening. We're glad to make your acquaintance. And my wife, my lovely wife, Marsha, and I are a team now. We've been a team for quite a few years. We travel and talk together because we're in perfect sync as male and female it can be at this time and space.
Hello to you all.
Brilliant. Good evening, Marsha. Now, I will explain to the listeners that there is a bit of a satellite link delay. So we might have one or two little issues with a bit of a delay, but we'll try and make it so, you know, we can have a good flow of conversation, fingers crossed. So before I get chatting to you, Ralph, I'll just give people a background of who you are, because I think, you know, we have to, we fill them in. Now, Ralph is one of the surviving members of a team of technicians and scientists who worked with the legendary inventor Otis T. Carr. Otis T. Carr was a protege of Nikola Tesla, for people who know who Nikola Tesla is. And Otis T. Carr, with his team, developed an anti-gravity spacecraft based upon direct tutoring he received from Nikola Tesla. Otis T. Carr was, as I say, a protege of Nikola Tesla. And Carr learned many secrets from Tesla. Much has been lost in time, but there are those now working on and rediscovering the secrets of Carr, on his mysterious writings and his patented drawings. Carr was ultimately shut down by the US government, who asserted that Carr was attempting to overthrow the monetary system. Now, I find that hard to believe. I think we all know that they shut him down because, you know, the bankers and the politicians and the people involved wanted to keep the status quo and control people and not have free energy technology. I think the best way where we can take it, Ralph, is let's start off with yourself and your bio and your background and what your qualifications are and how you kind of got involved with Otis T. Carr. That'd be a good place to start, I think.
Okay, well, for beginners, I was raised in the woods. I was raised here in Paradise, California. It's in Northern California, and it's very dense forest area. And my sister and I had to walk 7 miles to school round trip every day. But we had most of our lessons that had followed us through to this present time were given to us by the laws of nature, by studying the anthills and the lizards and the critters and the birds and everything. So we learned about natural law at a very early age. Later on, when we progressed out to the outer world, everything seemed to be completely backwards or different or upside down, and it took a while to adjust to the outside world. But we found they were all using very hard and harsh ways to get things done, where in nature they're very simple. You just follow natural law and everything happens quite easily and simply. So I progressed on upward to where I eventually my main interest was magnetism. I've always been fascinated by magnetism, and I felt, you know, when I saw the automobile and everything, I thought, well, why aren't they off the ground? Why are they, it seemed backwards. It seemed like they were delaying life, that it should be further advanced than where they seem to be. So I decided to engage myself with research and development as to where they were and what they were doing, and they were the scientists and the researchers that were developing a technology. And everywhere I looked, it seemed to be very slow and stagnant and very harsh, because they were using force. And in nature, you don't ever have to use force. You just have to understand the laws. Well, I progressed up. I went into the service. I was in the Korean War. I was there at the first landing, and I got wounded several times in Korea. I got out of the service in 1954 in San Francisco, California. I was in a regimental combat team in Korea, so I looked for a job to further my life's career, and there was no jobs for the work that I was doing as a regimental combat officer. So while I was on Guam before I went to Korea, and I learned skin diving and got into later scuba diving, and decided to start a business, which I did in San Francisco. I started a diving business, which became overnight quite successful, and I gravitated down the coast to Newport Beach, California, where I met, and eventually through my diving, met people from U.S. Divers Corporation, which was Jacques Cousteau's invention of the aqualung, which advanced the underwater adventures quite rapidly. My job, I got hired on as a research diver for U.S. divers, and they gave me the job in the research and development department to work out the wrinkles, if you will, or the distortion in the wraparound mask. Well, anyway, this kept leading on to more and more research and development. I met Jacques Cousteau. We hit it off right away, because we were on the same page as far as doing things naturally and allowing nature to have her way instead of us trying to turn it the other way. And in the meantime, I was raising a family. I had a wife and a couple of children, but the stays out on the ocean were getting longer and longer and deeper. And my wife was becoming nervous and said she wanted me to get a landlocked job where I wouldn't have to be away from home. And one day when I was having breakfast, she circled an ad in the paper from Advanced Kinetics, located in Costa Mesa, California. They were wanting a laboratory technician, someone to do work in government-funded projects. And I said, well, that's ridiculous. I don't have a background in that. I went through the 8th grade when I was a kid growing up, and then after that, high school was redundant. It didn't seem to be going anywhere, so I just took mini courses in some of the community colleges and so forth, the things that I wanted to learn, not that I had to learn. So I didn't feel qualified, but my wife thought I was, because we're discovering principles and putting them into little mini operations around the house, how everything could be run remotely. And I had little gadgets running around the house and things turning on and off. So she said, well, why don't you go down and just see what you can do? So I did. I went down, and they were having a lunch break, I guess, because there was nobody. Nobody was at the reception desk, and I walked up and down the hall, and I guess I figured, well, I'll come back after lunch. But I passed by the director's office. Dr. Weinhardt was his name. And he asked me, he said, what are you doing? What do you want? I said, well, I'm here to apply for a job. I need to talk to somebody, and they said, well, you'll have to come back after lunch. Well, wait a minute, what are your interests? What are you doing? And I said, well, what are your qualifications? I said, well, I know natural law very well, and my deepest interest is magnetism. And coincidentally, at that time, the engineer that was working on a magnetic project just left. He had been left the project, and they needed someone to fill the spot right then and there. And it was just a series of coincidences. But he said, go to work, we'll fill out the paperwork later, and we'll show you what needs to be done, and we'll take it from there. Well, the job was to fire an electron through a magnetic field without deflection. That's taking I had a high-speed oscilloscope, high-speed camera. In those days was Polaroid cameras. And I just had to continue to fire the electrons through a magnetic field without deflection. And their instructions were keep increasing the force. Force is the Gauss, so that it would go through the field. And the more I increased the force, the more the electron decided to deflect to either the positive or negative side. So, and I realized, well, this isn't following. They're trying to use force. It's ridiculous. And so I said, well, I can top that. I'll do something at home and bring it in and show them an easier way to do it. And on the next bench over there, working on levitation, they just had a simple coil, and they called them igliotrons in those days, and they were checking them out, at least 1 or 2 an hour, and burning them up, trying to levitate a steel ball for 2 or 3 minutes, and then the coil would burn up. So I said, well, that's ridiculous too. They're using force. So I went home and tore apart an old television set. In those days I was using garage sales and yard sales and things to collect my equipment. But I took apart a television set and set up the cathode ray tube and the magnets, and the only thing I did different than what I was doing at the laboratory was I pulsed the signal. I gave the electron, this poor little guy, a chance to breathe. And by pulsing the single signal, I mean slowing it down and giving the electron a split second to do what it chooses to do. So what it did was started to spiral. Instead of going straight, it spiraled through the signal and got to the other side without any deflection. So I said, well, yeah, it's that simple. You give the little guy a chance to do what he naturally wants to do, and there's no problem. So I fired that up and 20 or 30 more times, took pictures of it, wrote it up, and said, well, that's it. I'll see if I can get a raise out of this one. Well, then I went and while I was still fooling around with the ideas, I took the woofer out of the same television that I got the cathode ray out of and put it on the living room floor, which was my laboratory at the time, and hooked up an audio amplifier that I got at a garage sale for $25 and hooked it up, and then started to create the vibration through the cone of the speaker, the parabolic, to see if I could achieve levitation. Acoustical, but at least it was a form of levitation. So I wound up with a ping pong ball, and I got it in the center, and I reached the right resonant frequency, and it stayed there. I went to bed, and when I woke up in the morning, it was still there, and I said, ha! I don't know what I've got, because I'm just a technician according to the job specifications that I had. But I'll turn these over to the engineers. I'm sure we can find a cheaper way, if not a better way, to levitate than what they're doing. So I wrote this one up, took pictures of it, and went into Dr. Weinhardt and told him I think I've got something here. Take a look. And he looked at it and he said, oh my God. He said, no, we can't have this. He said, I see where you've gone. You're going further than we're allowed to go here. You're borderlining the laws of physics here and stuff. Like what? I'm just doing simple natural things. What's wrong with that? And he said, well, what's wrong with that here in this facility? This is the Advanced Kinetics. We're a government-funded research and development laboratory, and we're paid here to look for answers, not find them.
Well,
And that was a statement that broke my heart. I couldn't believe what he was telling me. My God.
Well, just
What are you saying?
just jumping in there, Ralph, very quickly about what you've just said there. You know, Nikola Tesla, when the inventions, he had over 700 patents, as you know, and he passed on the information to Otis T. Carr. And if we were allowed to develop the technology that Nikola Tesla had found, we would be probably driving around in levitated cars, anti-gravity cars at the moment. But because of the whole, you know, I'm just saying this for listeners who aren't aware about the whole Nikola Tesla thing. He wanted to build a tower called Wardenclyffe Tower, and he wanted to give everybody free energy, free electricity. And because of J.P. Morgan, because he couldn't meter the electricity, they pulled it down. And this is where I think Otis T. Carr met Nikola Tesla in the hotel he was staying in, I believe. That's how they met. And it's just a pity that this is the general excuse, and a lot of people are controlled and are brainwashed into thinking that you can't do anti-gravity, you can't levitate, you can't do this. You're going against the laws of physics, you're going against the laws of nature. And what you've just said there is, if you work with nature, then it'll work.
Yes, indeed, and it never fails. If you persist in your interest on any level with nature, you will find a way that you will be successful. And then all the experiments that I've ever ran using natural law, I've never had a failure in any of them. If at the most I'd learn more of how to do it differently, but never a failure. It's magnificent to work with the laws of nature. The laws of man are very limited. This rules and regulation that they tie off at the laws of physics, thermodynamics, and so forth. It's ridiculous. There's much things faster than the speed of light, and they're not even acknowledging it, or they haven't at least until quantum physics came in. But thought has been far more faster than the speed of light for years. We think of Hawaii and the white sands and the blue-green water and the coconut trees, and you're there. I mean, the thought is much faster than it takes to send a light beam from here to Hawaii.
We're going to talk about that. Yeah, sorry, I was going to say we're going to talk about that. But tell us about your hooking up with Otis T. Carr. How did that happen, and the technology you developed there?
Right. Well, I worked there, and I took these in, and he looked them over, and he said, well, no, I'm going to have to shred this. You go back to work, we'll give you a few more dollars in your envelope, but I don't want you to talk to the engineers. I don't want you to say another word about this, and we'll give you a few more bucks, and that's it. Well, I was stunned. I went back to work because I had to have a job. I had a family to take care of, but it lasted another week, and I walked off crying because I felt, oh my God, man, you guys you're using taxpayers' money to do nothing but run around in circles. You're not going anywhere. You're not developing. So anyway, I met a friend, and on the way home, as a matter of fact, and I was stalling going home because my wife I knew was going to be upset. But he said, well, what's the problem? And I told him, and he said, well, we've got a group of people that meet every week. It's called Understanding, a group called Understanding, and is created by a person named Daniel Fry. And they talk about such things. They want to advance life. They want to make life simpler and easier for people. They want free and abundant energy like we were given in the first place, with the sun and the water and the earth and all the elements, the wind, to work with without putting meters on them, without driving people into servitude to pay the bills. That's ridiculous. If they had free and abundant energy, they could be the creative beings that they came here to be. or they were born to be. They could be great musicians, great architects, great anything, because of the pressures put on by the monetary system to put meters and charge them for energy. They were restricted. They couldn't be who they really were. So anyway, he said, "Come on over to the meeting." So I went to the meetings, and he said, "What is your interest?" I said, "Well, I want to see floating homes. I want to see us get off the ground with things. You can have your transportation and your habitation in one vehicle, and you can create what I was calling then floating homes. Spaceships is a better terminology. Then that came in when I met Carr. But I told him this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to get things forward with the laws of nature and get us off the ground and have free and abundant energy for everybody, like it's supposed to be. Well, they said, well, coincidentally, we're in touch with this guy called Otis Carr. He's in Norman, Oklahoma. He's running into trouble because he went to the patent office with his idea of a spaceship, and because he had teleportation and sync, vibratory rates and levitation and teleportation in it, they said, that's ridiculous. You take that out and we'll give you a patent on an amusement device. And he said, well, I've got a working model. We're not interested. You cannot patent that because it doesn't fit in with our laws of physics. So anyway, long story short, he pulled away and decided, all right, well, I build the amusement device, and the other components that they asked me to take out, I'll write a book called Dimensions of Mystery. And incidentally, this is all available on our website, which happens to be Blue Star Enterprise, all one word, bluestarenterprise.com. And that's here in the United States. And the manuscript that he wrote on Dimensions of Mystery was all about how you can use levitation, how you can use and understand teleportation, etc. He had to code it in such a way, he put it into poems and prose in a delightful book on poetry, and he said, when the day comes and this is decoded, spaceships will be able to come back into the system. So that's gone on for years and years, and just 3 years ago, we have pods all over the world. We have them in almost every country. And the pod in Australia took on the project that I'm going to decode this. And it spent, he spent almost 3 years decoding this. And this is also on our website. You can get the original version, and you can also download the decoded version free, no charge, so that you can see how simple natural law is compared to the conventional laws of physics that tie you in knots and gets you weary and running around in circles.
Sorry,
So anyway,
Ralph, what's a pod? What pods are available? What do you mean by that?
Sorry. When I was, part of my work was done in Hawaii, on Kona, on the big island of Hawaii. And I worked through the Residence Project, which Nissan Harriman and other great scientists were doing terrific research and development in the areas of expanded quantum physics and ether technologies and everything. And every morning when we get up, we go swim with the dolphins, and before we go to work. And the dolphins come in pods. They come in little groups. And each group is different. They have their own characteristics, their own ways and means of communicating. But when we got in the water with them, the pods would interact and start games with each other's pods. So, and as they learned, you could see the advancement in their techniques and their ways and means of doing things. And so later on in life, when we started putting people together to work on free energy machines and devices, they asked, well, what are you going to call them? And I said, well, why don't we call them pods? Because it's just a group of people in different areas working on a common interest, the betterment of mankind, and they just call them pods. So that's how the name PODS became.
Okay, no problem.
So anyway, I was back at the meetings and telling these people what I wanted. I said, there's no reason why we can't have floating homes, floating cities, floating countries. In fact, we're on a big spaceship now. The Earth is a spaceship going through space, in a third dimensional linear way of looking at things. And there's no reason why we can't do this here and now. And they said, well, you sound like a guy that's in Oklahoma. He's into trouble because they think he's a fraud. They think he's asking for money for these cockamamie, ridiculous ideas of spaceships. But he wants to build spaceships. And it sounds like you guys have a lot in common. Would you like to work together with him? And I said, oh, I'd love to. So, long story short, and in the interest of time, I'm kind of cutting things short.
Okay.
They called him, and him and his entourage agreed to come out to California. And here they came. They came out to California, and we met, and they put us up at a lake, in a cabin in a lake, Lake Arrowhead, California. And there was, we had PR men, we had 2 or 3 engineers, we had a physicist, we had several people. I think there was 8 or 10 of us altogether. And so we got up there, and I brainstormed with Carr all night long. I didn't even need any sleep. This guy was talking about things so far off the grid and out of the box that it just stimulated my neurons continuously, and we just wanted to see natural law come back into effect. So we were there for about a week or 2, and then they finally called us and said, well, you guys want to build a spaceship? We found you a laboratory down in Apple Valley that's just down the other backside of Lake Arrowhead, and you can come down and go to work. So we said, well, that's swell. So we went down. It was a big, huge warehouse, and they had everything there. It was just very strange how things coincidentally happened, but it had the facilities for a laboratory, and we had machine shop and tool and die and different things were available to us. And so we started progressing towards building, workable machines in the third dimension. Now, when you're working with magnetism, it's not electromagnetism. Electromagnetism, well, many governments of the world are using electromagnetism now, and they have a similar type of craft with circular foil discs that are operating and so forth. But in electromagnetism, they are limited to the third dimension. They're not a multi-dimensional vehicle. And the area that we were working in, and this is Carr talking to us all the time about ether technology, using the ethers, understanding what the ethers are. That's the essence of magnetism. It's everywhere, and there's magnetic power everywhere. You need nothing else but magnetism to run everything. You can run your car, you can run your house, you can run yourself. Everything's run off of magnetism the way it is. We have just been deprived of the information available that it's free and abundant. So we're going to work with ether technology, and that requires a step up in your consciousness into being aware of who and what you are and what you really are, not who you think you are. And this is a matter of consciousness. And Carr kept telling us, you're much greater. You've been told this and that with brainwashing, that you're less than you are. Everybody is perfect in their own way. They have much to contribute to the whole, to the society and the collective consciousness.
Well, can I just ask you something there? Otis T.
Please.
Carr.
I can't breathe.
That's okay. Otis T. Carr. I mean, what an intellect! His intelligence and his IQ must have been off the scale. And I'm just wondering, what was his background? I mean, where did he get this capacity from? I mean, would you put it down to synchronicity, where Nikola Tesla, who had a phenomenal brain in himself, and then all of a sudden he meets Otis T. Carr, who has a phenomenal brain, and then obviously you meet him, and I'm sure by what I've seen, you also have a phenomenal brain. I mean, would you put this down to synchronicity or pure coincidence?
Oh, yeah, but synchronicity is the essence of nature. Nature, when you're ready, nature shows up with the things necessary to get the job done. And the only reason it doesn't happen more in our system is people deny or don't believe that's the way it operates, because we're not taught that way. We're not in sync with the laws of attraction. But the simple law of magnetism is attraction. The law of attraction is everything. And when you understand that, then you start accepting the synchronicities as they happen. And so Carr was on his own doing these things and studying and building, but then he had to supplement his research by going to work as a desk clerk at the New Yorker hotel where Tesla was residing. He stayed there. And they got to be pretty good friends very, very quickly. And Tesla said, well, I'm having trouble with this guy, J.P. Morgan. He's shutting me down now. And every time I try to get something out that's going to make life easier, we're shut down. Let me teach you everything I know if you're willing. And Carr was like a sponge. He said, yeah, I want to know everything. So he said, well, I'll give you everything I've got. You take it on in your time and you try to do it. And if that doesn't work, pass it on and pass it on. But someday it's got to work, because they're being driven into a deep cavern that's going to be almost impossible to get out of. In fact, if we don't do something to turn things around, they're on the verge of extinction. The whole human race can be extinct.
Well, I think
by the ways.
Yeah, I think the way things are going at the moment, I think we're in the world with Fukushima and everything else that's happening. Just a general question about the law of nature, because I am fascinated by this. And one of the things you said on one of your YouTube videos that I seen was that you mentioned that what goes around comes around. And I'm a big believer of energy, because we are all energy and we vibrate on a frequency. That's my understanding. And I'm a big believer in what I call the energy boomerang. And if you put out good energy comes back. If you put out bad energy comes back. And it just, I believe that's kind of the law of nature, you know. I don't know, what's your take on that? What's your understanding of it?
Well, that's the number one simple law of nature to me and to my wife, Marsha. We believe that what you sow, so shall you reap. You know, whatever you plant, or whatever you say, whatever you do, will come back like a boomerang, because that's the way nature works. We're all connected collectively. We're in a consciousness that's universal. We can't get away from the collective consciousness. And if you try to instill love or fear in somebody, it's going to come back to you as well. So we're very, very careful in our research and everything that we say and do. And maybe, Marsha, you can say something on that line. This is your line about the law of nature. Do you mind?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Marsha.
Okay, thank you. It's an interesting time, and we are even thinking about how our thoughts are and what words we use, and how we send out love essences instead of the fear, how we treat, how we actually meet different people or different animals. It's all of this, all of our beingness, everything that we see, everything that we touch has life in it. It's all consciousness. It's all energy, and it's how we act towards all of the energy, even the earth, the trees, the ocean. Everything has this same consciousness or the same energy in it that we are created with, and it's very, to us, it's what we send out, how we honor the different aspects of different things, different people, how we communicate, how we just feel when we're amongst the trees and this where we're at right now is just an absolute amazing setting with perfect trees and the green. I mean, the colors in the actual foliage is so much deeper than other parts of California that we've been in. So we share that.
So you're kind of saying the trees are giving us much energy here. So that's why we hugged the trees yesterday.
Yes.
All of us. We got around and hugged the trees, and it felt really good. We all had laughter and fun and everything doing that. But it was an exchange of energy.
Yeah, we actually felt the
what
essence,
you give out and
energy.
what it was giving us, we gave back.
Yes.
It was a wonderful feeling.
Yeah,
so it's the same in science. It's the same. Yes, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, no, this is one of the things that you did talk about. I was watching it again, one of your YouTube videos, where you were talking about the crafts you were building with Otis T. Carr, but you said you had to surpass the 3D world to actually understand what was happening.
Oh, absolutely. The 3D world is a very, very limited, very, very dense and limited form of energy. It materializes into a material form because we hold it in a very low vibratory rate.
And that's one of the reasons is that we've been so very programmed. Our parents, their parents, on and on. We've been told what to think, how to think, and what to do. And it's a programming that we need to break through. And now is the time to be who we were created to be, who we actually are in our reality.
And as far as the third dimension, it's a box. It's a box consisting of 5 senses. Taste, smell, hearing, etc. That's all we have. And that's what we have been told that's all there is. But that's not nature. Nature is multidimensional, multisensory. Everywhere you go in nature, there's things happening that are above the scope of the normal person to even see or think about, because they don't understand that there's more going on than just 3 dimensions.
Yeah, there's a lot more going on. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's just finish off the story with the crafts that you built with Otis T. Carr, and then we'll span out more into the whole what's going on in the world and the energy and the kind of spiritual side, because I think we will go into that. But what I'd like our listeners to know about is that you were actually involved in the 50s and 60s, I think was the time scale, where you were building crafts which were anti-gravity.
Yes, and this was in Apple Valley when they sent us down to the lab. We got to work quite quickly, and then Carr was guiding us. And we at first built small prototypes. We were moving them around the greater valley that we had there, and people were thinking they were flying saucers because these little discs that we had, they were 6 inches, 12-inch discs, were quite useful, and they were not controlled by the conventional ways and means of like a remote control that you control infrared or ultraviolet with, but they were controlled in essence with our consciousness, but it scared people because they had a corona sometimes around them that scared people because they would light up and then they would seemingly disappear and so forth. So we tried to keep our research quiet and down. We were very low key. We didn't want to excite anybody or get them nervous about anything. But we were building towards, we had 2 45-foot craft. One was fully operational, and it had gone through all the tests, and the other one we were still working on. But we wanted to effectively get one operational and then introduce it to the people, not to the government or anybody else that would have an interest of destroying it or using it for not good means. So we started developing the 45-foot craft, and as Carr would, now there is, for your audience sake, at the moment, if they have a television, an internet connection, they'll see that when I'm saying they operate it with our mind, they can go to the University of Minnesota University of Minnesota, and on their screen, and type in mind over mechanics, mind over mechanics. And they'll see what I'm talking about. They're already demonstrating things that you can use your mind to operate. They have a small craft running around the gymnasium, just operating off of their mind impulses. You don't need a bunch of gadgets or wires or anything else. You can use your mind to operate things. So that's just for the interest of your audience, because it sounds like I'm getting a little far-fetched. It's not far-fetched. It's basic science now. It's starting to operate more and more efficiently.
Well, this is the trouble.
Anyway,
this is the trouble, Ralph. People. This is why it's great to have someone like you on, because people still believe in the 3D world. They still believe what they're being told by the media and what the scientists say. You know, that you cannot use magnetics for free energy and blah. And they're believing all this from mainstream science. And I remember there was a story of a Japanese inventor who had sold something like 40,000 motors, magnetic motors. And he showed them, he had 2 multimeters, and there was more energy coming out than going in. And obviously the law of physics says that that's impossible. But this guy was actually doing it and selling the motors. And even the Free Energy Consortium flew over to Japan to have a look at this because they didn't believe him. And they couldn't explain why he was getting more energy out than what he was putting in, which we're told you can't do.
I know, we've run into that all my life. I've heard that, and that's just not true. There's ample energy everywhere. Everything is energy, and that is the essence of who and what we are. We are even creating our reality in if not nanoseconds, at least microseconds. We're creating our reality of the material world with our creative mind, with our imagination. Everything that we experience materially has been imaged somewhere along the line in life. That by the use of the imagination, this computer and this desk and this house has all been imaged at one time using the mind. There are more efficient ways than the conventional ways of producing things than people have been told. And so it's not even to the realms of who and what we are, and we can get into that after. I do want to give you the operation of the craft for your audience.
Yeah.
And then we can get into the spiritual end. So we built the 45-foot craft. It was already built, and Carr briefed us. He said, now where you're going is going to be you're operating with your mind. Your brain is a computer. It operates in the third dimension, a third-dimensional form called a body. It really doesn't exist, but you think it exists, so it does exist. And it is as real as you want to make it in a frame of reference, but it's not the only frame of reference in life. There are many frames of reference, and according to the time and place that you're looking or perceiving something, you change that reality. So he said, now you are going to go on board. We're going to be using your mind. Your brain won't comprehend it because its job, its jurisdiction is with the human element called the body. And it's busy. It's got a big job making sure all the cardiovascular and the lymph systems and all the organs of your body are functioning properly. And it doesn't have time or doesn't want to take time to think of anything outside of its box, and that's the body. So in order to go further than the conventional ways of understanding things, you have to use your mind. And your mind comes by way of meditation, by getting away from the conventional ways and thinking for yourself instead of being believing in a system. Find out what a knowingness is compared to a belief. A belief system can be changed periodically. They come and go all the time, and we run around in circles with belief systems. But once you know something, I know I'm hungry. I know I'm sleepy. I know those are knowings, and nobody can take those away from you. That's when you're thinking for yourself, and somebody can't convince me I'm not hungry when I'm hungry, unless I want them to. Of course, I still have free will. But there's a difference in the way we don't accept conventional programming and simply accept what's real. I know I am, so I am. So anyway, he said, your brain, when you get on board, there's 3 of us. And I was elected, and I was just a lab tech. I went for hamburgers and sandwiches for the guys while we were working on the crafts. But because of our rapport, our harmony between the levels of consciousness between Carr and I, he said, no, I want you to go on board with two other engineers. So we got on board the craft, and he had told us that you just let your brain just go to sleep. Do not think. Don't use any. If thoughts try to come in, just slow yourself down to where you're not thinking. And then I want you to focus on the center of the craft. There's a crystal in the center of the craft. And I want you to just focus on the crystal without any thoughts. Just focus there, and that's all you have to do. Nothing else. Don't think of anything. And he says, and then we'll go through the experiment, and then we'll talk about it later. So we got on board, and sure enough, I finally got. It's not hard to calm the brain down if you really set your mind to it. It's not so hard to clear your mind. Just don't see or think of anything. Just be very, very calm. And so we did, and there was 3 of us, and we were staring at this crystal, and it was fired up by a form of a laser. I'm not sure. I don't know the technology involved in it, but it was firing a light up to the bottom of the crystal, which illuminated the crystal. And it came out in different rays of light, like from infrared to ultraviolet, thousands and thousands of different colors surrounding this crystal for just a few seconds. And then it started focusing on the color of aquamarine. And the whole ship lit up. The crystal was vibrantly just radiating this frequency. And Carr had told us before and after that 2 days before the experiment, the engineers had gone down range about 10 miles and measured the area that they wanted the experiment to be located. And they measured it with light and sound and color frequencies. And the area that they chose equated to the light spectrum and the color spectrum of aquamarine. So he says, now what we're going to do is vibrate at the same level of aquamarine. It's called resonance. When you use resonance in anything, like they used to break crystals when you hit high C, and you take 2 tuning forks and you get them in the same key, you can vibrate, or two guitars across the room can vibrate in sync, in harmony together by using resonance. So, well, I'm going so fast I can't think. So, anyway, so he said we're going to reach the frequency of aquamarine, because that's the frequency we want the experiment to go to, and that's it. So this beautiful aquamarine happened, and it was so good. It felt so wonderful. And just for a few moments, the whole ship lit up inside. It was just gorgeous. And then the next thing that I remembered at that time, now my recall has come back, and I remember much more than I did at the moment. But at that time, I seemed to hear Carr's voice saying, "Come down for debriefing. That was the experiment. It was successful." And I thought, well, no. I talked to the other engineers. We didn't go anywhere. No, we didn't. We were sitting right here. Here's my body. I know I didn't move. And so I said, well, let's go down and talk to Carr, because it didn't work. Let's see what's going on. We went down and talked to Carr, and he said, how was the experience? Well, we didn't really go anywhere. We just kind of sat there, and just a few minutes later, you told us that it was over. And he says, well, I told you before you got on board that you operate with your mind. Your mind is infinite energy. It goes on forever. Your mind is everywhere in the multiverse. You are everywhere. Your energy fields go out and out and out. When you're operating from your mind, there are no limitations. Your brain cannot operate beyond its optimum capacity. Its job is hired to take care of the body. It's not interested in going anywhere or doing anything else. So you traveled with your mind, and that was energy. And you went down, and we said, well, wait a minute, the ship was sealed when we got in. We didn't have anything. Nobody came on board, and we were only there for a few minutes. What makes you think we went downrange and came back? This is empty your pockets. So we had these little jumpsuits on, and I know we didn't have anything in our pockets going in, but we started emptying our pockets. We had sticks and stones and grass and everything else, and he put it on his desk. And he said, what's that? Where'd that come from? And we had no answer. We said, well, we can't really explain it. I don't know how this happened. And he said, well, that's because your brain won't accept it. Your brain had said, it's impossible, this can't be done, and so forth. You went downrange with your mind. And
you went outside of light.
Well,
you went outside of...
I'm just trying to get my head around that. You said you didn't go anywhere, your physical body didn't go anywhere, but yet there's physical items in your clothing.
Yes.
Yeah, no, we didn't. Our body, our so-called body, I have to say that now because it's less than it ever used to be, was solidly staying right there. But our minds, if you want to use the word imaging or imagination or anything, traveled to this area via electronics, via vibrational frequencies to match up with the area that was radiating at that particular frequency. And when we were in resonance with it, we were there. Because the essence of who we are is energy. We are living in a thought form. We are creating a thought form from our energy, being who we really are. And I know that's a hard one to wrap your head around, but where we went was outside of this thing called time and space. Time and space are measured, at least time in essence, are a measuring device used in the third dimension to go from point A to B or X, Y, Z. But it's beyond that. There is no time unless you create it. There is nothing that is not impossible to create with your mind. Your brain has its limitations, and it operates at its own frequency, but your mind is unlimited.
That's incredible. I mean, I'm trying to get my head around that. How your mind went outside of time, but yet you were physically there. You could pick up something and then go back. And then when you were asked to step out for your debrief, you had them items in your overalls.
Right. But the way Carr explained it, that the energy fields of who and what we are unlimited, that we are all holographic in nature. There are in our cells, which are trillions, we have photographs of exact duplicates of who and what we are, and we can go anywhere and reproduce that duplicate anywhere at any time with our mind. I know this is far out, and it's very hard. It's been very hard for me to explain to people.
I'd like to inject right here, though. Not very long ago, since Ralph and I have been together in the last 7 years, Ralph had a police officer actually email him.
Two of them.
He and his buddy, two police officers, actually outlined seeing the craft go to the ground and see the three people get out of it in these light, he called white jumpsuits, and he wanted to know if that was what Ralph talked about. And so they were actually seen doing this.
We were witnessed. Mm-hmm. We were witnessed, and it was just to them an unusual phenomena, UFO, if you will, coming down and landing for a few moments, and these three people getting out, picking some things up, getting back on, and disappearing. That's what they saw.
Wow.
But they documented it and sent.
Yeah, that's.
Sent us a
I bet they were probably shocked or surprised when they seen that.
Yeah.
Well, remember, this was back in 1959, 1960. So, yes, they were shocked.
Yeah.
That's going back a while.
Like,
And to say that you had that technology then in the late 50s, early 60s, that technology, I mean, how advanced are we now? Good God. I'll tell you what, we are going to touch base on the spiritual side, and I know we have. I mean, this is going to. I'd love to carry on for the next 2 hours with the interview, but we're going to be. We got limited time, so what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the questions. We've got our listeners on our chat room, and they have a number of questions which they want to ask you, Ralph, and then we'll touch base on the spiritual side. So, Steve, you have the questions there.
I do indeed, Ralph. I want to thank you for what you've told us so far. It's been brilliant information. The chat room is lighting up here with questions, and I'm just going to dive straight into them. One of our questions is going to go back to Nikola Tesla, and it's from Agent, a long-time listener. He's wondering, can you ask Ralph, does he have any knowledge about Nikola Tesla and his brother having access to the Vatican libraries?
Oh.
Vatican.
No, I'm afraid I don't. I don't have any reference to that at all.
Okay, no, that's fine. It's just he just threw it in there. That's okay. Okay, we move on. A question from Karen. Karen is wondering, is there a way to use magnets to protect us from Fukushima radiation, or what about raising our own consciousness?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. That's the most efficient way to raise your consciousness, is to realize that we are in a magnetic bubble around our body that's holding our body in place, that's holding this form of material energy in place, is a magnetic field. It's known by different names. There's a Kralian field or auric field, or they call them many different things, but it's basically a magnetic field. And when you change your frequency, which means come out of gloom into joy with just watching a good program or talking to good people or eating a good diet of food, you are changing your frequencies. You're raising your vibrations. And once you raise your vibrations, you are in a state called Ascension. You are ascending to a higher, deeper, more unlimited state of consciousness, and one that the brain says, oh, it doesn't exist, but that you know in your heart it does exist because you're experiencing it. So yes, you can change your awareness and your get rid of just delete anything that is uncomfortable, because anything in nature will never make you feel uncomfortable. It's only what you're told, hearsay and gossip, that makes you feel uncomfortable. And don't buy into it anymore. Just only what feels good, and follow that, and you'll never go wrong. It just keeps leading from one good feeling to the next. And Marsha and I've done this for years, so we're witnesses to this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. No,
and along with that, go ahead.
No. Sorry. I interrupted you. Sorry. You finish your sentence.
Well, I was just going to say, along with that comes this wonderful ability to manifest things. When you no longer have to reach out for things in life, you no longer have to do anything but just be who you are and live in a state of joy, if you will, and things come to you. You intend. You don't want anymore. You change your vocabulary from wanting and hoping and trying to just intending. You intend, well, I intend this.
I know.
And knowing that the universe is dying to give you everything you wanted. It's already given you everything. It just wants to give you the tools now on how to use the things that you've already been given. And that, in raising the consciousness, enables you to manifest things. If you really intend to do something, and Marsha does this all the time. She needed a new refrigerator, and 3 days later we had a brand new refrigerator. I needed some work done on the car, and 3 days later a guy shows up and does it for nothing. And you know, it just happens. It just comes to you. And the price is appreciation. That's all. You just appreciate very much the laws of nature returning what you're giving out. You're giving out good feelings. You're giving out good love, and it has to come back. So yes, magnetism has everything to do with who and what we are.
Yeah, that reminds me very much of the movie that was released a couple of years ago, The Secret, which spoke at length about the law of attraction. And I watched that with an open mind. I was I was really impressed in what they said. A lot of the information was new. It was kind of part of my awakening process. And I have, not as much as I should, but I have actually used the law of attraction on various occasions. Just a simple one that they actually spoke about in the movie, and that was just when you're going somewhere in your car and visualizing your car parking space. I've actually done that several times, and I have to say, it is true. It does. Even something so simple as that works. It works perfect for me. But just backtracking a little bit, when you were speaking about raising your vibration, and you did say kind of maybe watch a good program, or I'm guessing you meant on TV, because I often find, and I'm sure everyone else does, that when you watch a good program on TV that has lots of laughs, that you do come away feeling kind of uplifted. But there's not a lot of that on TV at the moment. I'm sure you'll agree, especially over here. Most of the Irish population and the UK population, and I'm guessing the American population as well, they spend a lot of time watching soap operas, and a lot of these soap operas, they're just so negative. It's unbelievable. There's so much negativity in it, and when you come away from that, whether they realise it or not, but that has obviously drained them, and instead of uplifting them, it's dragging them down.
Thank you. That's our sentiments exactly, and thank you for bringing that up, because I meant the internet. I did not mean television. We haven't watched television in years. We do, however, watch the internet and the like TED Talks, and there are some programs there with some very truthful information coming through, and the YouTube has many presentations. You have to feel them. You can't just watch everything and accept it as being truth. You have to feel the truth and know it.
Would you say that what you mean by that is, if it resonates with you, which is what we say, if you watch something and if it resonates with you, well then that must be truth for you.
Exactly. That's living your own truth. You're not living somebody else's truth. You're not having to walk in somebody else's footsteps. You're doing your own thing, and that is the feeling that eventually leads to this extreme joy and bliss of just being alive and well, and knowing that it's a beautiful planet. And we've kind of messed it up with pollution and stuff, but we can straighten that all out shortly now by realizing we can do it. And and it starts with just each one of us individually. We don't have to have a state of commands, a hierarchy as such, a government as such. We don't. The government can go back to the people, and the people can decide, what they feel is right and wrong.
Yeah,
I tend to listen to our feelings. If it feels good, we know that we're on the right track. If it's uncomfortable, then we need to be aware if we're being programmed again. Because even on the internet, we can have some programming that comes through, not near as bad, or not near as much, as television. But there's that programming, even the subliminal programming that is around us everywhere. And so if Ralph and I have turned to our feelings, we've
abandoned the idea of duality. The third dimension is a realm of duality. It's either right or wrong, up or down, left or right. And that's not natural law. Natural law is what it is till you put a label on it. It is a tree until you say, oh, it's a good tree or it's a bad tree. Mm-hmm. But you're the one that's deciding it. Your energy interacts with what it is, and it becomes what you think it is, because that's us interfacing with nature.
So would you say to people, when people say I think, so what they really should be saying is I feel rather than I think?
Oh yes, follow your feelings first, and your thoughts will come automatically. But if you go with your thoughts first, you're apt to say the wrong thing and stick your foot in your mouth. So you have to check with your feelings first. and say, now, do I like this guy or don't I? And you say, oh, he feels like a good shot. Let's talk. But if you feel, oh no, this guy's going to want me into drinking and carousing, I don't think I'm going to go there today. Oh, maybe I'll see him somewhere else. And you follow your feelings. But if you didn't follow your feelings and the guy came up, say, I'm going to buy you a pint of beer or something, come on over and talk. And your feelings then kick in and say, oh no, don't go there. Well, you have a choice. But and it's best to follow your feelings, because the other way might get you into trouble.
But we have a saying over here, Ralph, in Ireland, that when you meet somebody for the first time, some people say, you know, that person gives me a bad vibe or a good vibe. And I don't know whether, you know, we always say kind of it's probably our sixth sense picking up on their vibration, on their energy.
Yeah,
that's good.
The sixth so-called sense is the sense outside the five senses that we have. We have five senses working all the time, and the sixth sense is the open door to multi-senses and multi-dimensional awarenesses that we have already. All we have to do is start using them. And so your sixth sense is very real and alive, and when you sense it, follow it by all means. Just, you know, pursue it, because you get 100 times further along the way than following your thoughts, because your thoughts will get confused with other people's thoughts, and then the belief system comes in. So we believe there's only one of everything, and that's this collective. Whoever we are, we're all connected, and that's a one source. So we're all really brothers and sisters in the essence of things. So we don't have anything to hide. Why not just be real? Just tell it like it is, and be like you feel. No secrets. Just lay it on the line, like it or not, whatever. And we stay out of trouble that way, because we don't buy into belief systems anymore.
Yeah.
Right or wrong is just an idea.
We agree with you. Myself and Steve, we have more questions coming in there, but myself and Steve always say
Sure.
we have a fluid belief system. And what we mean by that is that if something new comes in that we think, okay, that goes against what we know and here's the evidence, then we're happy to change it. We're not defending a belief system. We've nothing to defend. We're happy to examine new information to come in. And this is why we say to people, if you have a fluid belief system, you're open to everything.
Ralph always says one thing that fits right here. It's not either or, it's more. There's always more.
Yeah.
More awareness, more opening.
The third dimension says, well, you've got to make a choice. It's either or, and that's in nature. That's ridiculous. There's always more. You don't have to make a decision of either or, because you can actually, by examining your feelings, your thoughts, your whatever's being presented to you, there's actually more to be gained by going into it with a risk of being faithful instead of fearful, because fear will negate. It'll short you to ground right away. I mean, fear is the worst thing and that doesn't really exist. We just think it does, and I know that's another statement that can be challenged, but it's true.
Definitely. Well, I'll tell you what, we've more questions come in there, so we'll try and get through them. Steve.
Yeah, Ralph. Mick wrote us in there earlier, just in relation when we spoke of karma. And Mick's comment is, what about Newton's law that says every action has an equal and opposite reaction, meaning that if you send out good vibes, then negative ones will bounce back to you? Explains why good things or bad things tend to happen to good people. Just wondering, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, we go back to a belief system in a third dimensional box, and we also hold. Marsha and I also hold that everything in frames of reference is true, depending on your observation at the time and place and moment. Everything is true. So Newton's law, being what it is, which is now becoming antiquated with quantum physics and realities and ether technologies coming into play. But yes, Newton's law is right. But what equal and opposite is actually right in the third dimension. But equal and opposite in the natural sense of the thing can be anything you choose to make it, because then you're in control of your mind, and you can see it any way you choose. if you see a baseball speeding at you, you can use fear and get out of the way or duck or whatever, or you can challenge, oh, I want to catch this one and catch it. So it's a matter of choice of how you want to use what's coming at you. And one is fear and the other is joy. Like, oh, if I catch this, I'm going to be joyous. And you catch the ball and you say, that feels pretty good. So then you can move on by your decision. It's not, there's no more what ifs. There's no more need for what ifs in life. It's, everything is when you're ready. You can develop your own life in your own way, in your own time.
Yeah, let's just hope you actually see that. So I was just going to say, in relation to the baseball scenario, you say you have a couple of different ways of dealing with the situation. I was just going to say that's if you actually see the ball coming towards you. If you don't, it's going to clock you in the head, and then you're going to experience pain.
But that even could be equated to a good experience because you're going to learn from it. You're going to.
Unless, of course, you're sadistic and you like the pain. Anyway.
That's true.
Mick just sent us in another one line there. He was talking about Bill Hicks. I'm guessing you're familiar with Bill Hicks, the comedian. I believe he's dead a long time now. But Bill Hicks, in Mick's opinion, got it right when he said all matter in the universe is just energy vibrating slowly. We are all one consciousness having a subjective experience. There's no such thing as death. Life is just a dream, and we are the imagination of ourselves. What do you think of that one?
Oh, you've just rounded off our whole presentation perfectly. That's exactly the way that we've been trying to say. Yes, this is it. This is it. We are living in a dream. We are creating a dream in nanoseconds. It doesn't really exist. We think it exists, therefore it does exist. Because I can touch this table and it seems solid to me, but I can also raise my consciousness and realize this table is just pure energy held together by an idea that it's something that I choose to call it.
Slow down.
Energy. Matter is energy slowed down. It's all a matter of frequencies and intensities, modulation of energy. A fan blade, for instance, going at a high speed can seemingly disappear to the 24 cycles that we have with our retinas to see it. It doesn't really exist. It doesn't really disappear, but it seems to disappear. If you kept rotating it and kept increasing it, well, it would probably fall apart into a million pieces, and then it would disappear. But so everything is relative in its frame of reference, in how you look at things.
I have to say that's an interesting statement you made there, of that matter, energy is matter slowed down. That's very interesting.
Yes. Yes.
That kind of explains an awful lot.
Huh?
That explains an awful lot. That energy is matter slowed down.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, we have more questions, Steve.
Yes, we do. We have another question from Chris. Chris is wondering, does Ralph know anything about Nikola Tesla having contact with off-world beings?
Well, I got my information about Tesla from Carr, and Carr said that Tesla was in constant contact with other dimensional consciousness, as he called it. That consciousness is everywhere. You can talk to a tree if you know how to do it, and it'll answer you if you can know how to listen. But that Tesla was constantly, he was like a being that came here to offer us peace instead of war, and we kind of turned him down. But he was constantly in a state of contact with. Well, I have to say higher or more benevolent sources than the ordinary, than the physical consciousness that we maintain with the brain. He was far out, in other words.
And do you think do you think Otis T. Carr could have been doing the same thing?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. as are Marsha and I. We have feelings that they're not our own. We couldn't possibly imagine such beautiful feelings that come to us at times. They come from somewhere in the collective consciousness. Perhaps I remember one time reciting a poem that I never knew anything of, and I said the whole thing, which was about 20 or 30 words long, and the people in the room said, "Well, that was just written a week ago," and they proved it from a girl in Scotland somewhere had written that poem. Nobody knew about it yet, but yet I had managed to say it. So that's an example of coming from somewhere else. We have a collective consciousness, and if we can, it's like a radio. If you tune a station to a different frequency, you can pick up different thoughts, different feelings. And I was at that moment in time given the opportunity to make a statement to the people that were in the room as well as myself, because it startled me as well. My gosh, that's really working.
So this voice that you hear, Ralph, or this information, how do people distinguish between, because there's, from a spiritual point of view, people talk about their inner voice, and sometimes people say, oh, that's just my imagination, and other times they might say, well, there's no way I would have thought of that. How do you distinguish between the inner voice and something external?
You know, I want to answer that if I can. When Ralph opens up and is speaking many times to an audience like this one, or when we're in a public place and we're actually speaking to a crowd, many times he doesn't really remember anything that he has said. That happens sometimes to me. And then we listen to the either the video or the DVD, something that has been given to us, to see exactly what came through him. He speaks to the audience. I remember one time he was using some off-color, not really terribly off-color language, but he was speaking to a group at a backyard barbecue. And he was
lumberjack.
Saying, yeah, lumberjack. And he was talking really rough, and I kept nudging him on the knee, and later realized that that's the way he had to present so these people could understand what he was saying. He didn't know it. He didn't do it on purpose. It just came through him that way.
Okay,
so it's very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So somebody seems to be playing guitar in the background there. Is that background music?
Oh, they're having a gathering of light workers here at this facility, and there's a whole bunch of people arriving and already in progress of playing music and singing and dancing in the background. I hope it doesn't interfere with us, but they're playing sitars and different instruments.
Okay, no, that's okay. You're coming over anyway. You're okay. You're fine.
Oh,
thank you.
Getting back to the question, how do you know the difference? Your feelings, instead of your thoughts, your feelings will tell you the difference. It's called intuition. If you can follow your intuition, which is your feelings, you'll never really go wrong. It takes a little practice at first, but it's the same feeling that we mentioned earlier of, yeah, I'd like to try that, or not. And you have the option then of decision that you're making, not because somebody's sticking it in your face and say, take this right now. So it's just intuition is feeling. It deals with the emotions working through the heart and the soul. We are soulful people. We are not just the form of being a flesh and bone reality, which doesn't, and I dare to say this, doesn't really exist anyway unless we allow it to exist, unless we create it to exist. And we've done this to experience a physical reality, all of us. And it was here to enjoy, but we've turned it around to where it's not so enjoyable anymore, and now we're trying to get back to remembering who and what we are.
Yeah.
And it is a very important time right now. And this is what we talk about, Ascension. It's time for all of us to realize, to remember who we were actually created, who we are, and who we are, the ones we've been waiting for. We're the ones we've been looking for. We are them. And it's time for us to take that power back, to take our knowing of this back to our consciousness and act that part. Shine our light. Let us share who we are with the world, with everyone in the world.
I was just going to say about exactly what you're saying there about in the world. I mean, people are talking about this moving into from the third dimension to the fourth and fifth, and the energy taking place on the planet, the energy changing on the planet. And there's a number of people who have said they're experiencing certain things and changes and shifts going on. Is this something that you have experienced and you've come across?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
We experience it more and more. We think we've reached a plateau, and there's always more. And
there's always more.
It's such a magnificent time, and I'm sure that we have all chosen to be here at this time. But I think I feel like we all need to remember that we've chosen to be here and shine that light so that this world can have more abundance. To actually, we'll never have more abundance because we were given everything. We were given all.
We have to realize it.
We have to realize it and accept it.
Using the realize equates to what the Eastern Indians recur as the third eye, or the pineal gland, which is located in the center of the brain cortex. And using the realize compared to the physical eyes which were given is unlimited. You can see with your mind for all the way to infinity. With your human eyes, they don't go very far. Maybe 100 yards or a couple of 100 yards before they fade. But your realize is connected to your intuition. And once you start using your intuition, you can use your mind and your imagination, because the imagination is the power that creates everything, to explore the multiverse of who and what you are, which is just an energy being. You're a magnetic field. You're a completely detached from the physical world, except for your thoughts of what you are experiencing. And if it isn't a good experience, then you need to change that instantly, or you'll keep experiencing what you're creating.
And I love this part, because if we created something we're not feeling good about, we are the creator of that, and we can recreate. We can let that go, eliminate it, and create the experience, the feeling, the love, the joy that we want to create, that we want to feel, because we are that creator.
Just a simple example that the audience might take a look at and expand out to different fields of wording. We have a pattern in life, at least in the United States, of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or supper, or whatever. We have these times regulated to a certain time of the morning, the afternoon, or the evening to eat. And Marsha and I have abandoned those ideas. When people invite us to eat, if we're hungry, we'll go. If we're not, we won't. It's just a matter of, now it's mealtime when we're hungry. We eat only when we're hungry, and we don't when we're not. And it's no longer breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It can be in the middle of the night, or it can be in mid-afternoon. And if we're invited to a luncheon, we'll gladly participate, and we may or may not partake of the food or whatever, but it doesn't matter, because we no longer are attached to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We go to meals, and it's mealtime when we're hungry only.
So it's again, you're just sticking with the laws of nature, and you're just going with how you feel.
Yes,
exactly.
Okay.
And the same thing on your... Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish what you're saying there, Ralph. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say about time. You see, we're so used to watching a clock, and a clock is the most dangerous thing you can watch when you're trying to ascend into a higher frame of consciousness, because when you get back to knowing who and what you are, you operate on your own time, not somebody else's. And this is how you manifest. Many times this has proven itself to Marsha and I, where we feel we might be running late for an appointment, but we hit a crash on the internet and somebody was injured, so we had to get out of the car and render some first aid and get some attention. We had to use our cell phones and get some attention before we left. Once we got the attention and the help was on the way, we went on to our appointment, but we realized, oh my gosh, we're 28 minutes late to our appointment. When we got there, almost to the minute, the doctor, it was the doctor's appointment, was 28 minutes late.
Wow.
So we've changed the whole scenario. The whole picture can change. And in other words, we were operating on our natural impulses, our natural instinct, our natural intuition. And when that works, the laws of nature change. So this doctor apparently got tied up somewhere, and he was 28 minutes late.
Can I ask you
and
about...
that was just...
Sorry.
Yes.
I was just going to say, can I ask you about energy? Myself and Steve have talked about this, and we feel that when you are on the right path, for some reason the energy is just there. It's with you. It works with you, and we have come across this time and time again.
Yes, it's always there to guide you and direct you.
And it will never let you down. We have never, in who and what we are, who and what Marsha realized we are a part of the whole, and Marsha and Ralph no longer get in the way. We stay out of the picture. Marsha and Ralph don't exist when it comes to the collective consciousness. And when we realize that, we allow things to work through us all the time, and everything along our path is all just happening wonderfully. I mean, there's no delays, and it never lets us down. No matter what it is, it has never let us down.
Okay, can I just ask you, is this in reference to service to others?
Yes. Yes, in reference to service to others, but also in just allowing ourselves to be in the flow of guidance, of direction by our higher source or whoever we listen to. It's just if we actually flow with our day, flow with our guidance, we're at the right place at the right time. And that's even in mundane things. I guess there's no mundane things. Everything just is in our life. And
synchronization.
Yes.
You're always there at the right time, whether you think you are or not. Even sometimes you think, well, I can't possibly be here at this time, but you find out you are. You're right on target.
It's like changing our perception, changing our outlook on what we're actually seeing and experiencing, and knowing that we're at that right place. There's only now, this now moment, what we're doing right here and right now. That's all there is.
And getting back to Newton and the laws of physics, they claim, well, there's definitely a past because of this and that, and there's definitely a future because of this and that. In all reality, science can't prove that there is a past or there is a future. There's only the now. But we have memories that we can refer to. We can create the past, we can create the future with our memories and live through them once again and again and again if we so choose. But they're in the now that we do that. There isn't really a physical past that we can go back to because it no longer exists. There's only the now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I'll tell you what, we have about 10 minutes left, so we have 2 questions, and then we're going to sum up and just get your thoughts on where we are now globally. So we go over and get 2 questions off Steve, and then we'll sum up things from there. Steve.
Ralph and Marsha, the question came in from Karen. Karen is a long-time listener of the show. Karen's over there in the good old US of A in California, and Karen was she was wondering about changing your reality by changing your thoughts, and she says, what about the victims in Gaza? How do they change their reality? Is it by dying, or what could they do?
What's Gaza? Can you answer?
Well, in the victims anywhere.
Oh, in Gaza.
The victims?
Well, the reality is the victims are only victims because they think they're victims, and I mean that's the simple reality of it. I may know. And I'm not trying to get away from the the question, but go ahead.
Well, I'm thinking, I'm thinking this is what she's meaning. How can we say that there's only good right here and right now? But where everybody is on their own journey. Each person is, even though there's a oneness to us, each one is on their own journey that they accepted before they came here, or whatever, however you believe in that.
They accept the label of victim. And actually, you can turn that label around. Well, maybe this is an opportunity. Maybe it's not a problem. Mm-hmm. They have the power to change it around and look for the goodness in what's happening. And if they stick it out with patience and see the goodness in it, then they're on their way on the journey of turning this idea of victim and poor me and so forth around. There's no such thing.
But I also want to say on this account, the people that are the victims, that are in the bombing or in the warring area, that is their journey at this point. It is not our journey. And I don't mean that we don't care about those people, but it simply is not our journey, thank God, at this time. But they're learning. We believe that there's no lost souls. Everybody's on their journey to return to the oneness. Yeah. And if we
sooner or later, it's their choice, up or down, whenever they're ready.
If we keep this in mind, then we can be okay that there are people that are very hungry, and there are people that are in the war zones, and they're on their journey, but they will, all of them, every one of us will evolve and become one.
Yeah, eventually we will get there. I suppose we're living this experience. I kind of put it down to this. I don't know whether you this is your belief, Ralph and Marsha, but I always say that we have a journey, and the journey we're on, it's like all roads side by side, and then we have this thing called free will. And every time we make our choice, we change the road that we're on. But the lessons in life that we're going to learn are going to be on them roads regardless, because we did agree to come down and learn these lessons. But free choice changes the road that we're on. Would that be in your kind of thinking?
Yes. Don't you think?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Because you do have that free will. And if we turn and go to the left, when we actually would be easier to stay going straight ahead or to the right, it's also okay that we went to the left. It might take us another lifetime or two, but it's okay.
It's okay no matter what the decision is.
And that way we can accept everybody as part of the oneness and as all good.
There's a term now being accepted as quantum jumping. Once you realize quantum mechanics and how the quantum field operates and what it is, which is magnetics again, then change can be what you make it, and there's no delay or no consequence that you're even aware of, because change is good. No matter what you look at, if you give it in frames of reference as everything being good, and I will find out why later, then you can't accept anything but good.
Everything seems to be open. Yeah, everything seems to be opening up ever since the kind of quantum mechanics kicked in. What I'd like to touch base with you on is, where do you see us going with technology? Because we know that we've heard that, like Putin Vladimir Putin from Russia was quoted in saying that Star Wars is real, and we've heard people like David Wilcock saying that they have looking glass technology, they have transportation, they have replicators, they have faster than light speed. I mean, do you accept all that, Ralph, as yes, they do have that technology, but they're not going to give it to us?
Yes, it's what they refer here in the States as the black operations, black ops. They've taken the taxpayers' money and developed their own shadow government, shadow research and development facilities. They have spaceships now operating on electromagnetic energy that's not fully magnetic, and they're not going to go anywhere because they're still using weapons for defense or for offense, and that is unnecessary. And what is happening behind the scenes in our pods, we have hundreds and hundreds of pods around the world working on free energy devices that render only love to operate. That's all. There's no fear, there's no doubts, there's no weapons allowed in our operations. And so it is changing in the background. But we're at a starting gate where they realize that it depends on the consciousness of people. When we're now invited to give what we have gifts to give people on the free energy level. We have machines working around the world that have been working for years, never stopping, all on magnetic energy, free, that we want to give to them. But as soon as we step over their invisible line, the thought police come in and say, no, you can't do that, we'll shut you down or whatever. So we're in this holding pattern. We're waiting patiently for the consciousness to raise high enough so people say, no, we want change. And we expect change now. And then that opens the doors for us to come in from all over the world. We're everywhere. We're in New Zealand and Scotland and
England and
so now's the time. You feel that now's the time that we can actually do this, that the powers to be or the powers that war are now losing their energy because people consciously around the planet are beginning to wake up. Do you feel that's happening at the moment?
100%.
Yes.
100% plus. Yes, we do believe that. We're already over the critical part because opening the minds, getting people to wake up has been the hardest job, and Marsha and I have been doing it for years. Now we want to show them how they can ascend into the higher states, and some of which we just mentioned here. Just by changing your thoughts, your feelings, you can ascend quite rapidly into the higher realms of life, which are quite fruitful and quite joyous in nature.
And I just want to add, the access the internet has brought, like the radio program that we're on right now, how much this is waking people up, is helping the light workers, the people that are in the light, to expand and to share what we all are here to share. It's a most profound time,
yes.
And it's happening.
Exciting.
Yes.
And our blessings go to you and your staff and everyone that's connected with what you guys are doing, because you're doing the same thing in your way as we're doing in our way, and it is waking people up. It is causing them to rethink things, to re-examine who and what they are and the power that they have of the written or the spoken word. It's so powerful that they can change the reality overnight.
Definitely, and this is what we're doing. We feel, myself and Steve have always said that we have a moral conscience to get the information out there and to do what we do, because we want to wake people up, because the sooner the better they do wake up, the sooner the better the world is going to be a better place. And I think there's more and more radio stations and people coming on like yourself, and we appreciate yourself, Ralph and Marsha, for coming on the show. I mean, we've reached that time now. We're going to let you get on. I'm sure there's people in the background that you want to get on and hook up with and have a bit of fun with, so we're not going to keep you any further. But a big thank you to yourself, Ralph and Marsha, and a big thank you to Adam for sorting out the technical side. And goodbye to everybody in the audience. Thanks for everybody tuning in and listening in there. Brilliant information. Again, we'll send you over the podcast to this show, because we obviously want you to have a listen to that, but also we'll be getting it out on our website as well. And I'm going to pass you over to Steve there, and Steve's going to get all your details off you there, and our websites and stuff like that. Steve?
Yeah. Just one more mention before you go, if you don't mind. People can look us up on Blue Star Enterprise. There's loads of information there on these subjects. Or they can type in ralphring.com, and there's loads of information there. Anything we can do to help, we're welcome to. They're welcome to inquire.
And bless you for having us on and doing the works that you're doing.
They've got to go.
Steve and Alan, we thank you so much.
We love you guys.
Okay, Ralph and Marsha, thanks very much. And we generally do. We get the websites and all, and then we generally give the guest the last word anyway. But you've had the mic. You've given the BlueStarEnterprise.com website. I want to mention again the book that you mentioned earlier, which is Dimensions of Mystery, and we're going to post all this up on the website as well. We also want to remind people, when you said earlier, travel on over to the University of Minnesota and type in Mind Over Mechanics, and that will enlighten people as to a lot of the information that you've shared with us here this evening. So again, Marsha and Ralph and Adam, thanks very much from all here at OYM.
It's mind over mechanics. Mind over mechanics. I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
That's okay. We'll get that down. Mind over mechanics. Okay, Ralph and Marsha, just stay with us there for a minute. And what we'll do is we'll go to a musical break, and we'll be back after this. Just stay with us there for a minute, Ralph, and we'll be back shortly.
Okay, we will. Thank you so much.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com, and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
Thank you, Mary. A little bit of Toto there. I missed the rains down in Africa, so I do. Yeah, great information there from Ralph. We just had a few pleasantries there during the quick musical interlude, and very nice people. Very nice people.
Mr. Rains, you're in Ireland. We have it every...
I know, but I missed the
every
rain.
second day here.
I missed the rain in Africa. I don't miss the rain in Ireland.
Okay. Right, we better crack on. There's a few things that we want to touch base, things that happened during the week, and Steve's going to kick off with that.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Brian Gilroy. And the AIB found out recently that they've been forging documents at last. That's been uncovered. A signature on a 2.1 million loan letter has been found out to be forged. High Court Judge John Brehan, what does that have to do with Brehan law? Anyway, John Brehan said that for the purpose of this hearing, only the bank AIB accepted there was a prima facie. Prima facie?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm reading correctly. A prima facie case that the letter is a forgery. A spokesman for Legal and Equitable stated that the matter of the forgery will now be vigorously pursued through the Irish and UK courts. Imagine that. I think we've seen that on the internet during the week. And imagine that they're getting found out now. Oh, hang on. Hold the phone. The walls are closing in at last on the criminal banks. I forgot to say that, but yeah, it's about time too. So I mean, yeah, watch this space. Let's see what happens. If you or I were found to be forging documents, I reckon we will be locked up, and questions will be asked later. But let's see what happens in the case of the banks. I wonder, will there be a trial? Will it be, as it says here, vigorously pursued? Will it be vigorously pursued? And will the outcome involve someone maybe high up in a bank going behind bars? I doubt it, but you'll watch this space anyway.
We'll see what happens. Now, last weekend we had Sarah Lioness on the show, and she was talking about civil procedure rules, pre-action protocols, and I checked into this during the week, and we don't actually have it over here in Ireland. From what I found out, just England and Wales have a pre-action protocols, but it won't stop you actually applying pre-action protocols anyway, with whatever procedure you want to take on. I mean, if you try and do your best out of court and communicate with some companies, if you want to go down that road, and apply the pre-action protocols anyway, and if it does go to court, you can say, well, look, I tried to settle this out of court, here's all my evidence saying that I'm trying to settle it, and they didn't want to play ball. So, at least you can still do it, even though we don't actually have it over here. So, it's just an idea. Now, the other thing is that we talk about corrupt courts and corrupt judges and corrupt Gardaí and what have you. Well, BBC Online Network, they said that there's more than 200 judges and over 1,000 magistrates in the UK have owned up to being Freemasons. Now, a government survey reveals that at least 247 judges, or 4.9% of the judiciary, are members of the organisation, and at least 1,097, or 6.8%, of justices of the peace also belong to the Masons. The figures were revealed by the Lord Chancellor, Lord Irvine, in his appearance before a Common Select Committee of MPs. So they think that the system is fair, or somebody says, oh, well, justice is fair, when they're in a big boys club and they're all protecting each other and taking care of each other, but actually screwing the man on the street. It goes to show you how corrupt the system is, and Ireland is no different, trust me. There's people in the Masons over here as well, even though it does say on the Garda oath that they shouldn't join any secret society, and I believe in the Catholic Church it's the same thing, that they're not allowed to join any secret society. But do they kind of respect that? No, I don't think so. You can be guaranteed the Masons are probably full of them.
But is the Masons, are they a secret society?
Well, they're not a secret society, but I think the majority of people who join the Masons go for the dinner dance and the lunch and all that kind of stuff. I mean, years ago I was asked to join, but I just had gotten an easy feeling from it and decided that I wasn't going to go down that road. But for the majority of people joining it, they join it for kind of a boys' club and they're bringing out the missus to having a lunch. But there are other sinister things going on, and it is a bit cliquey as well. So I would be kind of careful. Now, if we did have somebody on who was a Mason, Chris, I forget his last name, who came on and told us that he was in the Masons and there were certain things going on there. If people want to listen to that podcast, it's available in the archives. So, but if there's anybody who wants to come on the show and talk about it and tell us the good side to it, then by all means, we're more than happy to do that and, get them to talk about it. But how's your week anyway, Steve?
My week's been good. As usual, when I talk about sowing the seeds, and not in that way that some people are thinking, just kind of planting seeds, sorry, not sowing seeds. In work, I told you I was getting asked about the return to sender method there last Sunday, and I clarified it again with the person in question during the week, in relation to what they asked me about. And I'm not sure if they're going to go any further with it because there was an element of fear. I did kind of speak about the fear and said that, there's always going to be fear, but fear is in your mind. And once you actually go and do something, it's like anything in life. You're afraid of something. You go and you do it, you face it head on, the fear goes away. So it's the same with return to sender. There is an element of fear when you first do it because it's uncharted waters. You don't know what to expect. But, you do it anyway and you hold your breath and the fear goes away. And that's just the way it is. No, Chris, it's not my dirty mind again. Actually, it is my dirty mind again. Yeah, and I'm going to tell you why it's my dirty mind now. Anyone who was in early in the chat room, if you had a look up the top, I posted 2 links earlier this afternoon. One is to a video I was shown during the week. This is a chap I work with. He showed me this video, and it was just wrong for so many reasons. I'm going to try and pronounce this. I don't know the lady in question. Nicki Minaj. M-I-N-I-G.
Minaj.
Menage a trois. Okay. That's not how you spell it. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Nicki Minaj. Yeah.
Right. I seen the video during the week. Chap I work with showed it to me, and I just thought, oh my God, it's disgusting. And the video content is just pure drivel. It's borderline pornography is what it is, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not a prude or anything like that, far from. I'm very open-minded. But I just thought the video was kind of disgusting. The song on its own, if you don't watch the video, I mean, obviously, the video is going to cater to, a lot of people. And again, it's there to sexualize the young children who are going to be watching it. If you listen to the song on its own without the video, the song wouldn't stand on its own 2 legs, in my honest opinion. Then when you actually read the lyrics of the song, again, this is what your children, what my children are most likely listening to. It's what's churned out every day on mainstream radio. But even the lyrics were absolutely disgusting. It was the second link that I posted in the chat room earlier. It was a link to the lyrics of the song, and have a quick read of them if you can, because again, I'm not going to say what they were, but it was a lot of sexual innuendos and a lot of slang words for certain body parts, and it was just disgusting. Anyway, that's what I wanted to mention. And also, Facebook Messenger. There's a lot of controversy going around about the Facebook Messenger. Anyone who has it on an iPhone, seemingly you can't view these permissions on your iPhone for the Facebook Messenger app. But if you have an Android phone, you can. And in the settings for the Facebook Messenger, it says all sorts of things like the Messenger can do whatever it likes, whenever it likes, with or without your permission. It can make phone calls, it can send text messages, it can read and edit your text messages and send them. Again, it's mind-blowing stuff. It can do so much without your permission. It can take pictures, it can record audio, and then send it off somewhere. But what I found frightening was that it does it without your permission. So you could be in a room having a conversation with a loved one. You could be in a board meeting, high-level board meeting discussing, world events, and your phone can just start recording and send it off to person or persons unknown. And they're saying it's under the guise of so they can target you better, like when they're sending you out advertisements when you log onto Facebook. So if you're talking about, oh, I'm going to get a new iPad, then when you log onto Facebook on your PC, you're going to have ads that are tailored to you. But why do they need to record your audio? And, you know, is it just going to be analysed on a computer with a fancy algorithm, or are other people going to be able to listen to it as well? It's Big Brother is definitely watching. I don't have Facebook on my phone at all. And I urge anyone who does, if you have that Messenger app, get rid of it. It's no good. It's just a further invasion of our privacy. And that's it. Enough said. Alan, how's your week?
Not too bad. A couple of things we're going to mention. Apparently, I don't know whether people have heard this, but 40Ds are going to see what it's like to live on the social welfare for 1 week.
You're joking.
For 1 week.
But 1 week, that's not enough.
Politicians will see firsthand what it takes to live on social welfare payments as part of a new TV3 series. 1 week.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, is that guy from Navan, Damien English, is he going to be partaking in
you're joking.
Mr. Only Flush Your Toilet twice a day?
Probably not. 1 week. Imagine 1 week. Oh, God help them. 1 week. They're going to try and live for 1 week. Try 6 months, mate. You know, then you'll know all about it. Right, another quick thing. Tony Rochford. Tony was the chap who went on hunger strike outside the Dáil. And he's planning to stand as an independent in Dublin South East area, which is Terranure, Templeogue, City West, Jobstown. And he needs 30 signatures before next Friday. So if anybody lives in that area or know somebody in the area, can you please contact Tony on Facebook and give him a signature there, because we need people like Tony to go in there and we get him elected, and I'm sure he'll have a right go with the politicians. So if you can do that, that's fantastic. The other thing that came in during the week, I don't know whether to believe this or not, we've heard this time and time again, but it says finally Nasera or Jessera to be officially announced worldwide on the 9th of the 9th, so the 9th of September. Now, if you remember, David Hugo Boyle was on our show and he talked about the financial reset and funds coming down to the central banks and now being filtered down to the normal banks. So apparently, if you go on YouTube and you type in Nasera, which is Nesara, you'll hear this information. Also on our Facebook page, if you go over to our Facebook page, you'll actually, I posted the video up there. You can make up your own mind. This woman's talking about, and she goes through all the technicalities of what happened. They were planning to do this in December. In 2001. In September 2001. And guess what happened in September 2001? The Twin Towers, because, you know, the powers that be didn't want it happening. Now, apparently, situations are different in the world at the moment because the white hats, if you want to call them, there's a lot of people who have jumped ship from the Bush cabal, and now they want this to happen big time. Now, on the same note, we also posted a video up of a military guy on Fox News telling people that something's going to happen or planned on the 7th of September. So, who do you believe? I mean, is it a case that Nasera is going to happen on the 11th and the powers to be do something on the 7th, the false flag or something happens, and they say, oh, sorry, we can't do that, we're going to have to wait again? I don't know. You have to make up your own mind. Again, we talk about resonance. If it resonates with you, then fair enough. Have a look at the Facebook page and pop over there and see what you think. The other thing is that Russia today, Ecuador, set to create state-backed digital currency to ditch the dollar, maybe. The currency is expected to start circulating in December, according to the country's central bank. So, I don't know, is that a good thing or a bad thing? You never really know with some countries, you know. Now, I know Ecuador is kind of, you know, has Julian Assange in their what you call it, the embassy in London, and more and more of these countries are joining the BRICS countries and dropping the petrodollar, which is a good thing because they're moving away from the stranglehold of the New World Order and the powers to be and everything else. But it just there seems to be just so much going on. And then Michael Noonan, oh man, that guy Michael Noonan, boy, if we got direct democracy in, the first thing would be to try all these politicians for treason and lock them up and throw away the key.
Bring back hanging.
Bring back hanging.
Because that's what some of them deserve, especially that guy. Michael Noonan, I think he's just evil personified. That's what he is.
He is evil. He should be hanged, definitely. I mean, jail is too good for them, because jail the taxpayer be paying for. So I think common law has to apply, because it's bad enough. It was bad enough in 1916 and everything else. They were fighting a foreign enemy, but I mean now it's our own people doing it to ourselves. I mean, it's just gone beyond the joke. And this guy, I mean, every time I see him, I just want to slap him. I really do. I'll have to get one of them, rubber suits and stick his face on it or something.
Rubber suits.
These.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Take your frustration out on.
This is a family show. Stop
it. That's a different thing altogether. So it's it's just, I don't know. They just don't get it. They really don't get it. Or maybe they do. Maybe they just don't give a damn. But we have to keep waking people up. Now, I don't know about you, Steve, and this is just something I'm just speaking off the cuff. I was tempted to put on my own personal Facebook page that if anybody on the Facebook page actually voted Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael or Labour, would you please vacate my Facebook page? Because they are the problem. They're due to their ignorance and lack of knowledge of politics, and they're probably the I'm okay Jack because I can afford to pay my bills. Then, I was thinking, I'd rather get them off Facebook. But then I had a second thought, and you came to mind, believe it or not. Right?
I'll delete myself.
not in a sexual way. And you came to mind, and I thought, no, because if I delete them off Facebook, they won't see what I'm posting, and it might wake them up.
Exactly. If they delete your Facebook page, they'll have no source of real education.
Exactly. So
they may not believe what you're posting, or what you're sharing, but at least they're seeing it every time they look at your Facebook page. They're seeing the information there, so they can't say they didn't know.
I know. So I'm going to grin and bear it and grit my teeth and do it that way. Okay, our time is not on our side. Mick from Liffey Sound FM asked us just to give a mention that Ollie Damigard is on Liffey Sound FM. Liffey Sound FM IE is on the website for tomorrow at 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock GMT. Listen to Mick and Ollie. Next week on OYM we have Finbar Markey from the Land League. And these are a group of people fighting back and fighting the banks. And we look forward to speaking to Finbar. Do you have anything planned during the week, Steve?
Not at the moment, no. I may just tune into Liffey Sound there tomorrow evening, see how Ole and Mick get on in the interview. As Alan said, it's going to be liffeysoundfm.ie, and if you are in the Lucan area, it's 96.4 on your FM dial. The show will run from 9 to 10 p.m. I'll probably just check that out. Other than that, no, I'll just put it out to the universe, put out what I want and see what comes back.
No worries. Okay, for myself, Alan James, take it easy, have a good week. Thanks for all your donations, and thanks for the links and everything else coming in, and much appreciated. And we'll see you next week. And take it easy and stay safe. Bye bye.
Okay, and news just hot off the press. Karen Quinn Tostado, or Karen Sheila Quinn as she is in the chat room at the moment, a good friend of ours from the US of A. I said California earlier and Karen said it was Oregon. It's probably the same place, I don't know. I don't know my American geography, but Karen is going to be on with Mick the week after next. I'm not sure exactly what date that is, but that'll be one to tune in for as well. Anyway, from myself, Stephen George, it's been a great evening, great information, and we'll do it all again next week. Take care, bye-bye.
Open your mind.